Well, hello everybody. My name is Roger and welcome to my channel, Rogers Reads. So today I'm going to do a review of The Woman in the Window. Actually, a while back I was watching a video on Peter Mon's channel, Peter Likes Books, and he was talking about how he just listens to The Woman in the Window and how much he enjoyed it. And I was actually trying to figure out what book to choose for my monthly Audible selection. So I ended up going with The Woman in the Window, and I'm so glad I did. I absolutely loved it. So the story follows a woman named Anna Fox, an agoraphobic child psychologist who is holed up in her home, unable to leave her house for the past 10 months. So she's separated from her husband and daughter, and as she passes the days drinking too much wine, taking too many pills, and chatting online with other people living with agoraphobia, as well as watching old black and white movies. She's also developed the very bad habit of spying on her neighbors using her Nikon's zoom camera lens. So she becomes especially intrigued by the Russell family, Jane, Alistair, and their teenage son Ethan, who recently moved in across the street. So much like the characters in the Hitchcock films, Anna becomes obsessed with her new neighbors, until one night, spying at the Russells' window, Anna sees something she shouldn't have. Or did she? So you see, from this point forward, Anna's world quickly crumbles around her as we learn that nothing is as it seems, which, by the way, is one of my favorite tropes. Now she has to convince everyone around her that though she was heavily medicated and drunk, what she saw was real and was not a hallucination. So, on to what I liked. As I mentioned, I listened to this on audiobook, and as the story unfolded, I felt as though I were listening to a Hitchcockian thriller with a modern twist to it. There actually seems to be a strong Hitchcock film influence here, and the entire story felt quite cinematic to me. In fact, the plot line did make me kind of think of Rear Window. Now, the story unraveled slowly, much like poor Anna's supposedly safe world, with numerous twists and turns and direction changes, all adding to the story's element of a suspense. I especially enjoyed the numerous old movie references peppered throughout the story. Now, I found Anna to be a simply enchanting protagonist. The detailed description of her struggle with agoraphobia was compelling and mesmerizing, and because of this, the book was quite unputdownable. The story was told in diary style from Anna's first-person point of view, and I found the peek into her mind fascinating, especially once she began to doubt her own sanity. Now, because of the drinking and the drugs, we come to realize that Anna is somewhat of an unreliable narrator, making the story even all the more compelling when we're not entirely sure what she sees or believes is real. And not only is she an unreliable narrator, but police also could consider her an unreliable witness. She's such a complex character, one moment clear and sure of herself, while other moments muddled and dreamlike. Though we're not sure whether to trust her, especially given that she also appears to be a compulsive liar. Anna's character is likable, sympathetic, and for many of us, relatable. I mean, who doesn't drink wine and spy on their neighbors? So though she's flawed, she's also incredibly complex. Now, I found the intrigue surrounding her family especially fascinating as we learn more and more about what happened. Though Anna has regular phone conversations with her husband and 8-year-old daughter, the reader does not know the reason that they are separated. What we do know is that some horrible, possibly tragic event occurred to cause Anna's agoraphobia, causing us to suspect that the same event was most likely responsible for Anna's estrangement from her family. So, as Anna's story unfolds, flashbacks slowly reveal bits and pieces of what brought Anna to this point in her life, and where she's a drunken, pill-popping recluse unable to leave her house. Now, the secondary character development was phenomenal as well. Though we do suspect that Anna is delusional and possibly an unreliable narrator, We're not quite sure, because most of the other characters in the book are kind of creepy or otherwise off-putting. So we definitely have a case here of not knowing who we can trust. What I especially liked is that I did not guess the ending. Now, just when I thought I had the story all figured out, the author went and changed the entire storyline, and I found myself on an entirely different path. I could also see no plot holes or inconsistencies in the story. Everything made perfect sense for me, and I felt like it was brilliantly plotted. Now, on to what I didn't like. I enjoyed the second part of this book much more than the first, probably because of the pacing. The first part was more on the slower to moderately paced side as it set the scene for the faster, more intense second half of the book. Though it didn't exactly drag because the characters became more developed and intriguing as the story progressed, it also didn't move as quickly as the second half. There was also a fair amount of repetition in the first half, which became more and more evident as the novel progressed. We learn as the story unfolds that Anna did something big to cause her separation from her family. When we finally learn what it was, it just didn't feel right to me. It felt out of character for the person we've come to know throughout the story. So because of this, I think a little bit more build-up and backstory would have been helpful, perhaps explaining why Anna did what she did. As it stood, it just didn't feel like something her character would do. So, on to the final verdict. So, The Woman in the Window is a strong, character-driven, suspenseful story that I found engrossing, especially once the pace picked up during the second half of the book. The prose was lush and beautifully written, and because of that, this was a superb tale and a treat to read, or should I say listen to. I'm so glad I listened to this in audiobook format, as, what was her name? Anne-Marie Lee is one hell of a narrator. The Woman in the Window was a highly emotional and truly captivating story that I didn't want to end. It was rich, it was riveting, intoxicating, with gorgeous tension-filled scenes that sucked me right in. I'd recommend this novel to anyone who likes suspense, psychological thrillers, old movies, or tales with a little darker twist to them. And I ended up giving this book 5 stars. And that is it for my review of The Woman in the Window. Have you read this book? If so, what did you think? So if you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you give it a thumbs up. And as always, I thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate all of your support. And that's it for this time. I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.